Okay, thank you, Nick. Welcome to the second session. So I'm Caroline Hill from the Crick, and it is an enormous pleasure to be here at this fantastic event. And I want to thank Ros and all the organisers for just making this wonderful memories of David's career. So I wanted to start just with a few memories of David. So I can actually remember the very first time I met him. So I was a postdoc in Richard Treisman's lab at ICRF in Lincoln's Inn Fields, and I was in the gel bay one night loading one of my RNase protection gels. And Richard had a visitor. So this, what really struck me was the energy with this man rushed into the lab like a whirlwind and was talking intensively to Richard about science. And he was talking about, I guess, the imminent move that he was about to make from Oxford to the ICRF in London. And so I was really intrigued, and so I'd be a very nosy person. I said to Richard, who was that? And he said, that was David Ish-Horowicz. So I then left Richard's lab and then met David properly in 1998 when I came back as a group leader to ICRF. And we became great friends, and he was an absolute wonderful colleague. And I would always ask him, because as you all know, he had the most incredible mind, very insightful. So I used to ask him to read my papers, and he always gave me fantastic comments. One thing he said was, Caroline, don't use the word importantly. It's not up to you to say what's important, it's up to the reader. So, a little harsh, maybe, but correct. And I try not to say importantly anymore, but if I ever do write importantly, I remember David. So we never collaborated directly, but I was on many institute committees with him and on thesis committees, and we used to have lunch together a lot, actually, while he was at LRI, and then when he had left, and when he used to come back. And in fact, whenever you talk to David, as you all know, about anything, he was always super interested. And I remember very well the last lunch I had with him before he became ill, so this would have been in summer 2023, and actually he was telling me a lot about, he and Ros had gone interrailing and done a trip around Europe. And I was telling him about some of our work about ERK and its regulation by the cell cycle we just discovered, and he was full of suggestions and papers I should read, old papers, and how I would get really interesting insights. And then I just want something that Ilan said earlier. I remember when he first started as his postdoc in Ilan's lab, when he had retired, and he came to me a few months later and said, I've learned about HCR, so this new in situ technique, which I then remember seeing these incredibly beautiful in situs that he and his colleagues in Ilan's lab had done. So he was just full of enthusiasm for everything. So I miss David a lot, and I miss him particularly on Fridays, because he used to come every week for our, Richard mentioned the FLY group, but he also used to come to the developmental and stem cell interest group on Friday afternoons, and we would always have chats after that.